We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button and smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football rebel outpost channel with a donation. Hit the $sign where you make a comment and we'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room with your comments or with your phone calls later in the show. UNC Board of Trustees meeting. I cannot promise you a rose garden. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe nothing at all, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to watch it together. Let me think. I'm just going to have to do a blanket thank you for everybody that has dropped in at the beginning of the show. Not going to have time to go through you individually, but I want to thank you all. I do appreciate it. Let's get to, let me see what happens here. Let me see what happens here. Gonna pop this up. Okay, hold on, everybody. I'm still trying to. Nothing has started yet. I'm going to do this a little bit differently here. I'm going to come in through their website. Agendas. It looks like it hasn't begun yet, even though it was supposed to have begun. Michael Monk, thank you so much for that incredible generosity of yours. Once again, Mr. Mountaineer, thank you for the super chat to keep the lights on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're trying to get the live stream going. I don't think it has started. Now, I remember the last time the meeting doesn't start for another 4 minutes. But it was scheduled to start live streaming 6 minutes ago. And it hasn't started yet. I'm pretty sure we're locked in here. It had a 7:50 a.m. That is Central Time. So, we'll keep an eye on it. If somebody notice that it is live streaming and we're looking at the wrong spot, let me know. We have taken that right out of the website, the agenda part of the UNC Board of Trustees website. Carolina Soul, hopefully some news today in Chapel Hill. Go Heels. ACC has deep political fingers in North Carolina. Clemson, Mr. DP is saying hopefully North Carolina jumps into the fray and helps Clemson and Florida State out. Roll Tide, Greg, thank you for coming on in. Matt Higgins. Bubba is short for the NC World. Jared Jones, good morning. Good morning to you. Again, we're waiting for the live stream to work, to get started. And right now, I'm going to keep going out and back into it. Just to show you what I'm doing here, this is a live stream for the full board meeting is located here. Thursday, starting in 2 minutes. So I hit that link. It says waiting for UNC Chapel Hill. In the meantime, while we wait for the live stream to kick in, hopefully it does, we'll go through Brett McMurphy, the Action Network article from late last night. Florida State and Clemson exit plans meet stiff resistance from ACC at spring meetings. Amelia Island, a quick recap from Wednesday's final day of the ACC spring meetings. Florida State and Clemson desperately want out, but the ACC isn't going down without a fight. They want a long, exhausting, drawn-out melee. Florida State and Clemson want to skip off to greener pastures as soon as possible. The ACC is taking the air out of the ball, just like UNC's coach Dean Smith's four corners offense. I am old enough to remember that before the shot clock, North Carolina four corners offense, they would stall you, get a layup. They eventually get a layup playing the four corners offense. Here is one of the money shots of the article. ACC sources said the league will fight the Florida State Clemson lawsuits to the nth degree. Can you force a school to remain in a conference? No, but you can refuse to settle and make it as costly as possible. Let's check it out now. Again, we're waiting for the live stream to start working. We'll take another shot at it. Again, I do not see a live stream working at this point. Opie, are you saying the live stream is working now? Or are you just saying, okay, it's on now? Like, okay. Let me see if I can... Okay, hold on.
The state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability. So help you God. I do. Congratulations.
Okay, hopefully the volume is going to work. There's nothing more I can do with the
Student
volume.
body president joined us for dinner last night, and I will just say she's off to a very strong start in her capacity on this board. I'll now ask Secretary White to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Pryor. Mr. Valentine? Here. Mr. Blaine? Here. Mr. Bullock?
Here.
Mr. Bronner? Mr. Bryan? Here. Mrs. Evans? Dr. Jones? Here. Mr. Kalapa? Mr. Kotis? Here. Mr. Meekins? Here. Mr. Patel?
Here.
Mr. Pryor?
Here.
Ms. Taylor is here. Mr. Turner?
Here.
And I am present. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Secretary White. As chair of the board, I must remind all members of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflict of interest. If you know of any conflict or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board today, please identify it at this time. Hearing none, I'm now going to move to approval of the consent agenda. Members of the board, we have a number of items on the consent agenda for approval at this meeting. I will read the list now, which include, and it is lengthy, so bear with me. Approval of open and closed session minutes of the March 27, 28, 2024 meeting. Audit, Compliance, and Risk Management Committee, approval of open and closed session minutes of Audit, Risk Management, and Compliance January 17th, 2024 committee meeting, attachment B. Audit, Compliance, and Risk Management Committee Charter and Office of Internal Audit Charter. Office of Internal Audit Risk Assessment and Fiscal Year 2025 Internal Audit Work Plan. From the Budget, Finance, and Infrastructure Committee, Ordinance Regulating Transportation and Parking, effective August 1st, 2024. Advanced Planning Spending Authority for the Gene Therapy Center renovation, the steam tunnel replacement on Columbia Street, designer selection for the Frank Porter Graham Student Union North Roof replacement, Phillips Hall 1960 building window replacement, the Brower Hall fire alarm system replacement, and the Gimgul Castle easement amendment. Also from the Budget, Finance, and Infrastructure Committee, approval of revised faculty salary ranges, School of Information and Library Science. And having read these materials listed under the consent agenda, is there any item that needs to be moved? The meeting's been going on for 7 minutes. Either the open or closed session agenda. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve all of these items. Thank you, Trustee Patel. Thank you for the second, Trustee Meekins. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And that is everything we had on the consent agenda. Now, for some brief remarks, I just want to welcome everybody to this meeting, coming to you today from the lovely Spangler Building Annex. And I want to welcome you to the #1 public university in the world. As you all know, this past Saturday was graduation. The first one held at night, and by all accounts, it was a spectacular success. Dr. Jones spoke about this at length yesterday, and that it was one of the best he has ever attended. And on a personal note, it was the first graduation I have ever attended, as I miss my own. For those who weren't there and missed my remarks, I'll just say that after 5 years of undergraduate education, it was time for me to go straight to work. And in one program note, I was one of the speakers that was allotted 2 minutes given. And I see Board of Governors member and fellow Tar Heel John Fraley here today with us. And we just had a discussion before. Where are you, John? We just had a conversation. Thank you, right here. And John told me that he had done the same thing when he graduated. He went straight to work, went to New York, and never attended his graduation until the 50th anniversary of his graduation last year. And I asked John to please tell our mutual friend, Governor Holly, who also spoke, that he may be in need of a new watch. There are many reasons why graduation was such a spectacular success, but let me give you just a few. Our event staff was great the whole week, including a beautiful dinner that several of us attended Friday night in Wilson Library, and all the preparations for that first night graduation, including fireworks. And they were really good fireworks too. That was an added surprise for everybody that was there in the stadium that night. So big thanks to Stacy, Megan, Julie, and all of our friends at the garden level. Our groundskeeping crews and the facilities team were just absolutely phenomenal. I was on campus pretty much every day, 2 weeks prior to graduation, saw what they had to do under difficult circumstances, and watched them planting, watering, cutting, manicuring. The campus really never looked prettier anytime I can recall in a long, long time. The bell tower was gorgeous. Removing those boxwoods 5 years ago, which was kind of a traumatic thing for those that remember that one, great idea. So congratulations to the groundskeeping facilities crew for all that hard work. But it is no exaggeration to say that none of it would have even been possible were it not for the tireless work and dedication of the University Police. Thank you, Chief James. Thanks especially to all of our friends we see on a routine basis, Jonathan, Shane, Bobby, and Jeff. Thank you for all the time you spend around us to make everything safe, secure. They had a very rough 2 weeks prior to graduation with no rest and limited help. They kept the peace, they did it professionally, and secured the graduation venue with lots of access points, and kept a capacity crowd safe and secure for a really joyous event. Now, let me address something from the meeting we had on Monday to approve the all funds budget. I want to clarify comments made during that meeting that may have suggested that we had planned a separate budget presentation for athletics in an upcoming closed session. We do not schedule budget presentations and discussions for closed session, and we did not do that this week. Closed session is reserved for the purposes enumerated in state law, including but not limited to discussion of attorney-client privileged information, personnel matters, campus security, and other confidential information legally protected from disclosure. Protected discussions of these topics may necessarily intersect with a high-profile unit like the athletics department, but we have not and we will not hold a separate presentation of the all funds athletic budget or any other part of our all funds budget in closed session today or any other day. We post our agendas on our website and they list our planned closed session agenda items. The agenda for today's meeting does not include a budget presentation or discussion in closed session and never has. A lot of us are very passionate about our athletics program. Concerns about the future have been expressed. We are in an uncertain time regarding the future of college athletics. That future is fraught with substantial and intersecting legal risks. We did not speak with the precision or clarity that we should have on Monday, but no statement made or action taken during that meeting changed the board's plan for today's closed session, our commitment to respect the legal grounds for closed session, or the accuracy of our published agenda. I appreciate the opportunity to correct and clarify our intent. Now, let me call on Student Body President Taylor.
Buckle up, baby. Buckle up.
President's remarks.
Thank you, Chair Pryor, and good afternoon to the board, Interim Chancellor Roberts, Vice Chancellors, Senior Administrators, and press. My name is Jalea Taylor, and it is my honor to serve as the Student Body President and as a member of the Board of Trustees at the esteemed University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I am a rising senior from Charlotte, North Carolina, studying political science and media and journalism with a keen eye on law school. Before talking about me, I want to firstly thank those who have supported me in my endeavors throughout.
All right, so this is the new student representative of the Board of Trustees. Congratulations to her, her family, her loved ones. What John Pryor said at the beginning, his opening remarks, is that when they're talking about budget matters, when they're talking about numbers, about the athletic department, it's going to be done in an open session. That's not going to be done at the closed session. The closed session is at the end of this entire meeting. We're not going to be able to watch the closed session. He says that has to do with legal counsel, client attorney privileges, campus security. There are certain things they talk in closed session that they're able to do, but athletic department stuff, they cannot talk about it in closed session. So we're going to hear some of it right now. I will say, again, peek around the corner, we reported to you yesterday, the day before, there's something in that closed session today that I think we believe has to do with some sort of engagement that UNC Board of Trustees is now involved with in regards to their athletic future. So very interesting opening comments from John Pryor. I think we might get something. I think we're going to get our rose garden today. So buckle up, brace for impact. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to put this lady back on here.
Stands that their voice is powerful and that they truly have the opportunity to make Carolina better. In my time as student body president and as a trustee, I plan to advocate for a meal swipe donation plan that addresses food insecurity on our campus, introduce voter engagement initiatives for the upcoming election cycle in the fall, defend diversity, and most importantly, make sure that all students feel welcome, supported, and safe here at Carolina. Additionally, I plan to work alongside the graduate and professional student government by helping ensure graduate students are fairly represented and compensated for the work that they provide to our community. In my past day or so on the board, I have appreciated how the board has not shied away from having hard conversations and discussing contentious topics. I've been able to see the members deliberate and articulate their points. With that being said, I recognize that there will be moments of tension on the board, and there will be tough conversations and sensitive topics that will present challenges for all of us on this board. But if anything, these times of tension can inspire growth in all of us and remind us of the value of compromise and camaraderie. This next year of my time on this board, we may not see eye to eye on some issues, but I know that I'm ready, willing, and excited to work with all of you to make the best choices for our university, a university that we all love and hold dear to our hearts. To the board, I'm hopeful about the amount of work and policy that we'll be able to accomplish in the next year, and I look forward to deepening my relationships with you all and finding common ground. Thank you.
Again, if you just join us, UNC Board of Trustees Chair Pryor clarifies comments made on Monday's meeting that the board would discuss athletics budget in closed session. They will not speak on the budget in closed session. If they're going to speak about it, it's going to be on open session.
Government body's president, Javier Daniels, please come up for your remarks. Well, that will allow us to proceed with our agenda and stay on time, and we'll have that another day. I'll now recognize Interim Chancellor Roberts for his remarks.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good morning. Thank you to everyone for being here. Welcome especially to Representative Staten Williams and Representative John Fraley from the Board of Governors. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to President Taylor. Appreciated your remarks. Look forward to working with you. Let's talk before you irrevocably commit to law school. I have some hot off the press news. As you know, yesterday was the deadline for students to commit to Carolina, accepted students to commit. So our current overall yield number is 47%. That compares to 44% last year. Our in-state yield is 61.5% compared to just under 60% last year. We also have about 75 students who have been given extensions, 1-week extensions due to the...
Again, if you just join us, John Pryor, in his opening remarks, says a lot of us are very passionate about our athletic programs. Concerns about the future have been expressed. We are in uncertain time regarding the future. We did not speak with precision or clarity that we should have on Monday.
Nationally. As Chair Pryor mentioned, last week was full of graduation festivities, and the best event that I attended, I think not just in the context of graduation weekend, but maybe all semester, was the Red, White, and Carolina Blue ROTC graduation on Friday morning. If you haven't attended that in the past, I really encourage you to put it on your calendar. You won't find a more inspiring event on our campus. Our speaker was a woman from Duplin County who had joined the Army at 17, came back to Carolina, and is now a lieutenant colonel in the JAG Corps advising the 82nd Airborne at Fort Liberty. So highly inspiring speaker. Trustee Bullock and I shook how many hundred hands at the hooding ceremony on Saturday morning? Yeah, you were wearing more comfortable shoes than I was. And I know that several of you attended our commencement ceremony as well. Obviously, my first as Chancellor, the first that anyone can remember in a long time, that was held on Saturday evening. And during our first commencement under the stars, it felt especially appropriate to have Zena Cardman, NASA astronaut, speaking to us. If you want to feel inadequate, spend some time chatting with a 36-year-old astronaut who's been in training for 7 years and is about to go up on the space station for 6 months. I'm sure many of you know this, but as we close the spring semester, I get the honor of attending many events representing the accomplishments of our graduating students. That included the Carolina Covenant Scholars Dinner about a week before graduation. That program is truly incredible and should receive more, I think, attention than it does. It allows us to award a full financial aid package and offer a network of support to our lowest income students. That program now represents 10% of our undergraduate student body. 50% of the Carolina Covenant students are first generation college students, and they're able to graduate from Carolina debt-free, which is a huge deal for any student, but particularly these students. While I was preparing for all of the excitement around commencement, I kept thinking back to these students, the ones who were the first in their families to graduate from college, and what a remarkable achievement that is to celebrate, not just for the students, but also for their loved ones sitting in the stands, keeping in mind all of the families and friends celebrating their graduates. It really brought into perspective the importance of holding the ceremony and doing everything that we could to keep it celebratory and safe. As you all know, several other institutions didn't hold their graduation ceremonies or had to adjust plans due to protests and anticipated disruptions. I feel very grateful that we didn't have that experience. We've had to make some very difficult decisions around topics that people across campus and beyond feel very passionately about on every side. We're always going to uphold free speech. It's a foundational principle of our university as the first public university in America. It's obviously a constitutional and legal obligation. And beyond upholding free speech, we're going to actively encourage student engagement and peaceful protest. That should be true for any institution of higher education. Everyone has a right.
Now remember, Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director, is at the meeting. He said yesterday he's going to be prepared to answer all questions. John Pryor, the chairman, said in his opening remarks about 10 minutes ago that they're not going to be talking about anything in regards to the athletic budget, anything in regards to any numbers in their closed session. So if they're going to talk about it, it's going to be out in the open. We shall see. I mean, Bubba Cunningham is there. Did they stand down? Did the Board of Trustees stand down? They're not going to make it an answer and question period with Bubba Cunningham? Is that it? Is that all we're going to get in this meeting? Is the John Pryor opening remarks? We shall see.
To take action with protesters, including members who are not including many who are not members of our Carolina community. I've been very appreciative, as Chair Pryor has, of our police department and our university leadership for the way they've handled these disruptions. Our police were able to clear the Polk Place encampment quickly. This occurred days after protesters refused to follow state and university policies regarding tents after previously complying with and working with our student affairs team. Also in this case, our incredible facilities team quickly restored the area following a major cleanup operation. I want to specifically commend Chief Brian James for his leadership in this regard. His approach to minimizing force and focusing on de-escalation benefits the safety of all involved. I also want to thank university leaders, my colleagues, for remaining steadfast in our mission, in upholding our policies, and maintaining our commitments to free speech and peaceful demonstration. I also want to bring up a topic that brings a variety of views and concerns. It's, of course, DEI. At this point, we await the BOG decision regarding a potential system-wide change, as well as guidance for implementation. We also await clarity on how the budget addendum that this board submitted to the BOG factors into the system's expectations of us. As you all know, the BOG meets next week. Once we have clarity on the policy, we will move carefully and thoughtfully to implement decisions that focus on the success and that support all of our students at Carolina. I'm afraid we have more questions than answers at this point. I know people around campus and around the community are curious about the policy, interested in how it will be finalized and implemented, and we'll have to wait until next week and the implementing guidelines to see that. I'll reiterate that the university has a profound obligation to reflect the state. Everyone who lives here knows that the state is rapidly growing, it's rapidly changing, it's extremely vibrant. We have a profound duty to reflect the state. That's been our obligation since our first academic year 229 years ago, and we can't just reflect it on paper. We need to make sure that everyone who comes here feels welcome here and as though this is a place for them. We've just closed out a difficult academic year. Our students have gone through a lot, especially those who graduated. And I want to make sure that we take a moment to thank the faculty and staff who supported our students throughout this year. They've mentored and guided our students through the highs and lows. That care and support culminated with graduation this past week. And I couldn't be more grateful to have been part of the community of Tar Heels, celebrating our students and their successes. I know during our last meeting, I promised that I wouldn't show videos every time. But if you let me go back on my word just a little bit, I'd love to wrap up my remarks with a recap video of this past week's celebration of commencement, because I think it's always important for us to be reminded that we are constantly working towards providing these students with a safe and enjoyable celebration of one of the biggest achievements of their lives. So thank you to everyone who made this happen.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the mute on because I can't have music. If that video is having music, I can't have it on there. It's a video about their commencement. So far we've had opening remarks from John Pryor and Lee Roberts. The question is, are we going to get any question and answering period with Bubba Cunningham during this open session? We do not know. John Pryor came on with opening remarks and said that we do not talk about athletic department budget in closed session. That has to be out in open session. But we don't know if they're going to talk about it today. Some reporters out there are reporting it as if the Board of Trustees stood down today. I did not quite get that. The UNC Board of Trustees Chair Pryor clarifies comments made at Monday's meeting that the board would discuss athletics budget in closed session. The board did not speak with precision or clarity. So they're not going to talk about it in closed session today. They might not talk about an open session today. They might not talk about it at all.
It was a spectacular event, and those that missed it, maybe we have a new thing with an evening graduation. And I'm not getting into that now, but it was certainly a big hit with all the parents that I talked to. I'll now recognize Trustee Patel to give the report on the Audit, Compliance, and Risk Management Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Pryor, Board of Trustee members, this report covers items discussed during the meeting of the Committee on Audit, Compliance, and Risk Management yesterday, May 15th. The committee reviewed and approved the minutes of the January 17, 2024 meeting. The committee also reviewed and approved the Audit, Compliance, Risk Management Committee Charter, the Office of Internal Audit Charter. In addition, the committee reviewed and approved the 2025 Risk Assessment and Internal Audit Work Plan. These items were approved by the board early this morning as part of the consent agenda. Finally, the committee heard from Chief Audit Dean Weber regarding the university's risk assessment and top 5 enterprise risk management exercise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much, Trustee Patel. I'll now recognize Trustee Bullock to give the report on the Budget, Finance, and Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Pryor, Board of Trustees members. This report covers items discussed during the Budget Committee. Committee for Budget, Finance, and Infrastructure, that was yesterday. Committee approved the university's transportation parking ordinance that will be effective August 15th, 2024. Committee also considered and approved requests for 2 advanced planning spending authorities, 3 designer selections, and 1 easement amendment. These items were approved by the board as part of the consent agenda moments ago. Detailed information about each request is available in the on-board portal. Thank you, Chairman Pryor. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Trustee Bullock. And I'm getting ready to call on Trustee Cotis, but before I do, I want to recognize Trustee Cotis, who was on the search committee that resulted for the new police chief, that resulted in the hiring of Chief James. And Trustee Cotis has spent a lot of his time on all aspects of the public safety leading up to graduation and did an invaluable service in the process. So thank you. And with that, I'd ask you to give the report on the Strategic Initiatives Committee.
Thank you, Chair Pryor. Watching that video and seeing 20,000 people show up and enjoy that day who didn't have a chance to enjoy their high school commencement reminded me that at University of Southern California, they didn't get to do that. And leadership matters and investments in security matter in order to allow things like that to happen. This report covers items discussed during the committee meeting of the Committee of Strategic Initiatives yesterday, May 15th. The committee reviewed and approved the minutes of March 27th, 2024 meeting. This item was approved by the board as part of its consent agenda this morning. The committee heard an informational report from Provost Clemens on a request for authorization to plan for the Institute for Risk Management and Insurance Innovation, a very interesting and powerful program. Finally, the committee heard a presentation on the proposed Institute for Risk Management and Insurance Innovation from Dr. Gregory Geraklis, William R. Keenan, Jr., Distinguished Professor, Department of Environmental Science and Engineering, and Director of the Center for Financial Risk and Environmental Systems. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much, Trustee Cotis. And I'll now recognize Trustee White to give the report of the External Relations Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Pryor and Board of Trustees member, this report covers items discussed during the meeting of the Committee on External Relations yesterday, May 15th. The committee received a legislative update from Amy McMurphy.
if I had to guess right now, I don't think we're going to get any discussion on the athletic department other than they approve the audit. Reporting coming out of national reporters, they're calling it the big stand down. The UNC Board of Trustees stood down. They're not going to talk about in closed session, and they're probably not going to talk about it in open session. Bubba Cunningham made himself available, and here we are. So it doesn't look like we're going to get anything of anything substantial here. We'll keep watching it. I don't think this is going to last much longer. They're already almost done through their open session agenda.
Me and asked if I would come and speak with you all today. I'm honored to do that. Let me just make a few comments. She gave me a whole lot to say, but I'm going to be disobedient and cut across the field here. One thing that she would want me to emphasize is that our administrative goal for the year is to ensure that we empower graduate and professional students and ensuring that students have a voice in institutional affairs. She also would ask that I would be committed to addressing the community needs and that we would be sensitive to all of the graduate and professional students. Now, the Chancellor has already spoken on the DEI issues, and I think this is something that all of us are very concerned about. I myself am fortunate to be a part of the Keenan Flagner Business School, and so I have not yet made a personal decision on how I feel about it, because I make all of my decisions off of data and facts. As the Chancellor says, I don't really have facts right now. So as I await those facts, I would like to say that I am glad to hear that the university is going to take every approach necessary to ensure that our community stays fair and inclusive for everyone. Finally, she wants to emphasize students' wellness, and we have a plan to advocate for graduate and professional students through introducing a student Bill of Rights. This Bill of Rights will include things like reasonable work hours for our PhD candidates and protecting time off. We would like to improve student engagement for graduate and professional students across the community by introducing programs like UNC Connect to foster community. And finally, we would like to have transparency across the Graduate and Professional Student Council. Now, unfortunately, I have to go to work because I have a board meeting at my actual job. But I will leave you with this one gift, because I'm from the South and you always give people gifts when you first meet them. I hope that my comments was brief and that you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for those comments, Xavier. That was very nice, and we always appreciate brevity at this board, so thank you, especially the chairman. I concur with that. I'll now recognize a motion to go into closed session. Trustee White.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board convene in closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute Section 143-318-11A1 to prevent the disclosure of privileged or confidential information, and also pursuant to Section 143-318-11A2, A3, A5, A6, A7, and A9.
You've heard the motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Trustee Cotis. All in favor? Any discussion or debate? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're going into closed session.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. We did not get, we really didn't get anything out of it, other than at the beginning of the John Pryor opening remarks that they weren't going to even talk about it in closed session. They didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about it at all. It isn't like they're going to be asking Bubba Cunningham questions in closed session either. So the UNC Board of Trustees, as reported by some national reporters, they stood down today. I wonder if they got some heat. I wonder if the UNC Board of Trustees got some heat from the Board of Governors. I don't know. Something happened. UNC Board of Trustees, they stood down. I'm going to go through the Brett McMurphy article here, a little bit about the Ross Dellinger, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. Then we are going to open up the phone lines on what you think is the next step in all of this. Again, I want to thank Michael Monk for your super chat earlier in the show today. Thank you so very much for your kindness, for your generosity. Let's get back into Brett McMurphy's article from late yesterday. The ACC, the sources from the ACC told Action Network the league will fight Florida State and Clemson lawsuits to the nth degree. Can you force the school to remain in the conference? No. But you can refuse to settle and make it as costly as possible. It's already been 6 months since Florida State filed the lawsuit. Brett McMurphy, have the Magnificent Seven schools been reduced to double trouble? Ironically, the conclusion of the ACC's 2024 spring meetings was exactly a year to the day that the news broke about the Magnificent Seven schools. They had been talking behind the scenes about how to improve their situation and potentially create their own conference. All seven of the Magnificent Seven, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech, fully participated in the spring meetings that just happened at Amelia Island. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, along with soon-to-be new members, California, Stanford, and SMU. There never seems to be a dull moment at these meetings, and this year was no exception. On day one, UNC Board of Trustees member Dave Bullock said he was advocating for the Tar Heels to join a higher revenue league like the Big Ten, the SEC of the Big Ten. That's what we need to do, Bullock said in a board meeting. We need to do everything we can to get there. Or the alternative is the ACC is going to have to reconstruct itself. I think all options are on the table. And I'm going to say this. In that closed session today with legal counsel, we were given a tip that today could be the starting block of some sort of engagement, some sort of legal briefing on the matter of conference affiliation for North Carolina, possibly to engage with the Board of Governors, possibly to talk about once again the possibility of the ACC reconstructing itself. They're not going to talk about budget matters in the closed session, but could they be talking about something else in relation to possible conference affiliation? Meanwhile, Florida State's Board of Trustees previously said they wanted an exit plan from the ACC by August 2024. Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford said this week, that's a legal proceeding that I can't cover. Alford was asked how long an exit from the league it might take. Michael Alford, if you go back to the president, myself, we've never come out and said, hey, we want to leave the conference. Alford said. We have not notified the league we are leaving. Now, there is quite a discussion going on among the Florida State insiders, a lot of reporters. Is Florida State going to announce their withdrawal this summer? A lot of Florida State insiders say yes. You see it all over the message boards, all over the YouTube channels. So what they're saying is Michael Alford's going from we've never asked to leave this conference to suddenly saying we're out of here. We shall see what happens. But, you know, Brett McMurphy brings up a brilliant point, and we brought it up just a few live shows ago. Florida State actually did kind of notify everybody that they are leaving the conference. In Florida State's December lawsuit versus the ACC, buried on page 32, on Florida State's 38-page complaint, item number 151, Florida State be deemed to have issued its formal notice of withdrawal from the ACC under Section 1.4.5 of the ACC Constitution, effective August 14th, 2023. We talked about this, I think, yesterday. Or maybe the day before, when I said, look, they've already said if we get a declaratory statement, judgment ruling in our favor, hey, judge, kick back our withdrawal back all the way to August 14th, 2023. But at the moment, they've not have officially withdrawn. And I don't think they need to because of this, that they put it in page 38. Page 32 of a 38-page complaint. So for now, Florida State remains an ACC member. But for how much longer? Both Phillips and Alford said everything remains professional and both parties are working together. Brett McMurphy says, I cannot confirm if either one of them had their fingers crossed or not when they made the statement. As far as the ACC's desire to settle with Florida State or Clemson, the percent chance is between 0 and a number less than 0. Multiple ACC sources said this week the league has absolutely no incentive to settle with the two schools. Florida State's general counsel has estimated it would cost $572 million to exit the ACC and to break free from the league's grant of rights that runs through 2036. However, Florida State claimed in a lawsuit that the ACC's deal with ESPN includes an option that the network must execute by February 2025 to extend the deal through 2036. If not executed, ESPN could walk away in 2027. We're working with ESPN on a piece of the contract, Phillips says. The partnership is not going away, Phillips says, or being effective in a negative way at all, Phillips says. Florida State position is we'll just wait and let the court proceedings play out. And I think that's what Florida State's going to do. They are in the grind. Florida State is trying to improve their leverage in the court. Instead of writing a check for $572 million, $600 million, they want that number to be lower, obviously. I happen to think there's no magic potion to get out of this grind that Florida State, the ACC, and Clemson are in. But I do think there is something that could help Clemson and Florida State out. And that is if UNC Chapel Hill gets into the fray. If they jump in, if they somehow can get the Board of Governors to give them the ability to jump into the fray, to start litigation, that could change everything. That would help Florida State. It ain't going to hurt Florida State and Clemson, and I got a feeling it would probably help the situation. I think that is a big wild card. North Carolina, will they jump into the fray? Will the Board of Governors allow them to? That's a big question mark. And then the other wild card that I think is out there is Judge Cooper of Leon County. Is he going to make a ruling once they have the pleadings, once they argue it and everything? Is Judge Cooper going to make a ruling that the ACC, ESPN media rights come open in public view? If Judge Cooper decides on that, decides in favor of Florida State, the Sunshine Law of Florida State, then maybe that will get settlement talks going. But other than those two wild cards, and North Carolina being the big one, I think we're in for the grind. I think it's going to be a grind. I get it. I'm in the minority on that as well. A lot of people say things are going to happen this summer. Florida State's going to declare they're out. It's going to force ACC and ESPN at the table. I know a lot of people believe that to be the case. All I can say is we shall see. Can you hold on? Can everybody hang on for one moment here? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. We are going to get to Ross Dellinger's article of last night after we did our live show, hours after we did our live show. The phone number is 763-260-1333. You can talk about the UNC Board of Trustees standing down today. Bubba Cunningham ain't going to be answering any questions. Look, they're going to do an audit. That's great. Bubba Cunningham has been in his office since 2011. Is he really mismanaging the athletic department? Probably not. Probably not, but this is the world. This is the Board of Trustees. They don't have a whole lot of power. They're frustrated. The money perch at North Carolina is going over the top on them, putting all kinds of pressure on them. Is Bubba Cunningham truly guilty of anything? Or is he being the scapegoat in this drama that is going on, this rock fight that continues to go on at UNC? Give me a call, 763-260-1333. I am going to, give me a minute. Ross Dellinger of last night. The SEC presidents met yesterday in Birmingham to further explore House settlement terms. Sources tell Yahoo Sports. All the conferences are doing that. They're trying to herd the votes, trying to get the yes votes so they can settle the NCAA. This is the Ross Dellinger article, and even the title of it. Will the ACC hold together or fall apart? The SEC and the Big Ten have cut us open, and they're just watching us bleed out. Sources tell Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. Despite the jovial and optimistic nature of its leader, Jim Phillips, and regardless of its Olympic sports trophies and lofty graduate rates, the ACC is a fractured family, one growing more fragmented with each passing day. Two of its most unruly children, Florida State and Clemson, are causing disruption as they work to leave the family behind. A half dozen of their siblings, 6 of them, wish they had the resources and wherewithal to join them. Another group of about 6 universities are clinging to the morals and missions and are content, nestled quietly in their beds, avoiding trouble at all costs, an angry fist raised toward their misbehaving brethren. Beautiful writing by Ross Dellinger. Absolutely beautiful writing by Ross Dellinger. Dad is trying his best to hold intact the group, steer the ship into smooth waters, salvage his family, and protect it from same afflictions suffered by the cross-country neighbor, the Pac-12. Back at one of the campuses, trouble brews. A third child grows restless. On Monday, the opening day meetings, a handful of North Carolina Board of Trustees members expressed concern over UNC's athletic department's financial situation. They approved an audit. We've been over all that. One of the trustees at least voiced something else. A not so subtle suggestion that the school should pursue an exit from the conference. I'm advocating for that, Dave Bullock said. He didn't want to say it in open session today. They didn't say anything about it in open session today. They're not talking about it in closed session today, or at least about the athletic budget, according to John Pryor opening remarks today at the Board of Trustees meeting. Dave Bullock, that's what we need to do. We need to do everything we can to get there, to the Big Ten or the SEC, or the alternative is the ACC is going to have to reconstruct itself. I think all options are on the table. So Dave Bullock, a former chair of the Board of Trustees at North Carolina, says all options are on the table. We need to do everything we can get there. Go to the SEC, option. Go to the Big Ten, option. Reconstruct the ACC, option. Florida State and Clemson are further along the exit path. There's no turning back now. Florida State and Clemson are not turning back now. The only question Ross Dellinger is saying, Brett McMurphy has the same reporting on it. The only question, how much? How much will they owe the ACC in any exit settlement? Any negotiation probably starts at about $550 million. the suggested tab from the league of exit fee plus the cost of breaking the grant of rights. How much lower can Florida State get it from 550? How much lower can Clemson get it? What is ACC willing? What is the number? And then Ross Dellinger goes and talks about what's happened at the meeting, talks about the distribution numbers. With the college football playoff numbers, we're now talking about being 40 million behind every year, said Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford. 40 million behind. So that is Ross Dellinger's article. Basically, the title says it all. The title of Ross Dellinger's article late last night says it all. Will the ACC hold together or fall apart? The SEC and the Big Ten have cut us open, and they're just watching us bleed out. What do you think? Give me a phone call. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. We did cover the North Carolina Board of Trustees meeting, and there wasn't anything except for John Pryor, the chairman's opening remarks, basically saying we should have been more clear on Monday. We're not going to be talking about the athletic budget in the closed session. They didn't talk about it in the open session. They're just not going to talk about it today. Jamie believes the UNC is having to get this audit and pull all its financial info with the plan and present it to the North Carolina Board of Governors before UNC can do anything. If you're going to go to the Board of Governors, Jamie brings up a great point. You've got to have your ducks in a row. You just got to have, you got to be able to show a financial plan to see how badly off you are now, with projections of what you're going to be 6 years from now if you stay in the ACC or if you take the plunge and you exit the ACC. Very good point. Again, is this about Bubba Cunningham embezzling money? No. This is about a shortfall that UNC has known for years, especially during the COVID years. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about that. Got to have a financial plan. So that you got to be able to illustrate where you are today.
Call from Chris Kenny.
Chris Kenny, can you hold on one moment, please?
Yes, certainly.
I appreciate it. Kerry Gold knows. Thank you for the super chat. Let's smash the like button. Only takes a couple seconds and helps Greg out a lot. Absolutely. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows, for your super chat, for your kindness, your generosity, and reminding everybody, if you like the content, please smash the like button. We're almost at 100,000. We're at 99,000, a little bit over 99,000. I appreciate everybody. Chris Kenny, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
I had one comment on the Ross Dellinger article and then another unrelated comment, but something that came up yesterday. On this issue about, sort of reconstituting the ACC, I think that that's virtually impossible at this point if it ever was like a really viable option in the first place. Like I understand the logic that ESPN would probably pay the same amount they're paying now for 10 members, 14 or 17, whatever they're up to now. But even so, like, if you cut out, 3 of those members are hardly getting anything. SMU gets 0. Cal and Stanford get a fraction of what they otherwise would get as a full member, and the only reason ESPN is paying that at all is because there's a pro rata clause in their agreement. So if you were to reconstitute this as a 10-team league, they're only paying for 10 members. That the Stanford and Cal money is off the table. So you think about, okay, take 30-something, 40 million if we're being generous. You cut out 4 members that you would otherwise be getting that money. You split that 10 ways, everybody's getting what, an extra 15 million, maybe 20 if you're really generous. That's not going to come close to cutting the gap between where you are and where the SEC and Big Ten are. I don't think that's.
Yeah, and I think you're being real generous with those numbers too. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think I am being very generous, and it also doesn't factor into the costs that would come with doing that. Like, even if a majority, quote unquote, votes to end the grant of rights and walk out the door, the other partners of the league are still going to sue, and they're still going to force a settlement of some kind. So maybe it's not $500 million in penalties, but it's still going to be a substantial amount of money you'd have to pay just to leave for not a whole lot of upside. So I don't really see that as a viable option if it ever was viable to begin with. So that's just the reaction I had to that. It's quote unquote if it's on the table, I don't really think that means anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead.
No, I'm
The
just saying.
second point. Go ahead. There's a lag. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think it's much of an option. It's just going to bring up more litigation. That's all it's going to do. I think. It's fine for North Carolina to, sure, talk about it some more. But I think Florida State and Clemson are so far down this one avenue. I don't think they're even would be interested in that. So I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is that even if the North Carolina leadership knows that's not viable, at least it kind of seems less extreme. It's like, okay, well, we should just go back to the core of what the ACC was, and kind of a nostalgic contingent can maybe get more comfortable with that. And then when they realize it's not viable, you've already taken the toothpaste out of the tube. I don't know. That's the most generous thing I can think of. But the other point I wanted to make, which I don't know if you've talked about yet, but I was very interested and also kind of bummed to see the NFL's schedule release yesterday.
Yeah.
And the games that the NFL is putting on December 21st to go head-to-head on network television against the playoffs.
Yes.
When we talked a few months ago during the negotiation, I had said I think they're going to come to regret very quickly encroaching on the NFL's territory, and that's not coming up with a better schedule or not thinking this through and forcing yourself into doing it so quickly is going to come back to haunt them, because the NFL is not going to accommodate anyone. If anything, they become more aggressive when they feel like their territory has been encroached upon. And the fact that they're scheduling not just 2 games, right? It's not the Saints and the Cardinals. These are 4 marquee teams that all have playoff aspirations, including the defending Super Bowl champions. Like, those teams are going to kill the playoff in head-to-head rates. They're not going to even be close. I think they'll double them. You could be looking at 30 million versus 15 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So what do I mean? So what's the point? Is that just like, well, that's a crummy outcome, but what about it? Well, what I said a couple of months ago was, I do think that the NFL has got multiple motivations in this. Obviously, they defend their turf at all costs because they really are television and popular culture in America these days. But I think the other goal they've got, and Roger Goodell hinted at this at the draft, is I do think that the next big move for the NFL business-wise is to get into the business of college football. I think that they're going to throw their weight around. I think they're going to show the leadership of college football who is boss, and that ultimately they are better off making peace with the NFL than trying to go up head-to-head with them. And I think that when we start talking about outside investment in the future of college football, I don't think it's going to come from private equity. I think it's going to come from the NFL. And what I think that will ultimately look like is, you know, if the CFP goes the full, whatever it is, 6 or 8 years in this contract or not, if there's some sort of look-in and therefore an opt-out, I do think the NFL is going to buy in to whatever the next iteration of college football is. And if that's a 48, 50 team, quote unquote, super league with its own, closed playoff system, I think the NFL is going to be the equity partner with them in that venture. And, this move only makes me feel even more confident that that's the future. And when Goodell was asked about it at the draft, he didn't say, oh yeah, obviously that's where we're headed with this, because why would he? But what he did say is we want to be helpful to college football in any way possible. And, being an investor or a co-owner is not something we're thinking about right now. Those two phrases, I think, are very indicative. They're not being helpful right now. Obviously, they're being incredibly confrontational. But once college football realizes that that's a confrontation they can't win, then the NFL will be thinking about getting involved, and that involvement will, quote unquote, be helpful to resolve what's inevitably going to be a decline in viewership, at least in the early round. I think, we want to talk a peek around the corner. It might be like a peek through the telescope because it's longer distance away, but probably sooner than people think, if people are thinking about it at all. And it was one thing that occurred to me yet again when I saw the schedule released yesterday. So that's all I've got.
Very interesting take. I've often wondered if ESPN and other potential media partners of the college football playoffs, I often wondered, this is probably why the number came in lower than we all thought, or many of the experts thought out there, for the annual money going to college football for the playoffs, the media package, because they knew that the NFL was going to come over the top and try to drown them with their own content on many of these days that the college football playoffs were going to happen. That's been in the back of my mind. I've talked about it. I think that's probably one of the big reasons why the number came in lower than expected. What do you think about that?
I think you're right, and I think we're going to see that ESPN, as much as they are in the college football business, you're right, they kept their powder dry on the money. Number two, everybody has built in all these various look-in clauses. I'm sure this has got to factor into that. Like, what if the format we've devised isn't as strong as it could be? I think they tried to cheerlead it by saying, oh, well, we'll have these look-ins to adjust performance, as if it was like if we overperformed, maybe we would look in and redistribute money or reconsider formatting. It could just as easily go the other way. If things aren't working as well as it could, you have a look in to rejigger it, to strengthen it, number two. Number three, I would be stunned if, unlike the college football playoff championship game, I would be stunned if these early round games are in any way simulcast in a meaningful way. Maybe there's something on ESPN Plus with like Pat McAfee or something, but they're not simulcasting this on ABC like they do for some random, otherwise mediocre Monday Night Football games. They're not going to antagonize the NFL, especially if I think you saw this article yesterday in Front Office Sports, that the NFL itself has an opt-out clause in all of their current media deals so that they can go back into the market and demand an even higher rights fee in like 2030 instead of 2032 or whatever it is. So I don't think ESPN and ABC are going to do college football any favors when they haven't really done them any favors already, because if they do that, it's only going to piss the NFL off more. and they could easily walk away from ESPN and ABC. It sounds unfathomable, but they could, and Monday Night Football could be on Netflix in 10 years. I mean, that's totally possible.
Yep.
So I think college football is in a tight spot because they're the big, NFL is the big player and the big muscle. And I think that they're going to have to realize, and will realize sooner rather than later, their long-term future is better off being more integrated with the NFL than antagonistic to the NFL.
Yeah, you could be you're either on something, you're on to something, Chris Kenny. But I appreciate it. That's a great take.
Little bit of both, brother.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Call again. Beautiful, man.
Have a good one.
Absolutely
All
beautiful.
right.
Yeah, I think he is on. He's pulling on a thread. Chris Kenny is pulling on a thread, and I think there is something to it for sure. Opie, thank you so much for your incredible generosity once again to this College Football Rebel Outpost football channel. Thank you so much. Super Chat, I think, as that look-in date of 2/1/25, February 1st, 2025 comes closer. If they haven't gotten these court cases done, I can see that date being pushed back until these things get taken care of. I suppose it can get pushed back. And I'm guessing that most of the schools in the ACC would give Phillips the votes to push it back. If Phillips asks for the votes, if he needs the votes. That's a great point, Opie. Very good point. I know a lot of people hope that is not the case. They want either to bleep or get off the pot, ESPN. But you're probably right on that, Opie. Thank you so much again for your incredible generosity.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you hold on a moment, please? I got some more reporting. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Opie, thank you for the super chat. We got some reporting. Some questions were after the open session was done. Before they went in the closed session, reporters in there were able to ask some questions. Let's see what was said. We got a few of these to get through. Brian Murphy, News and Observer. North Carolina Interim Chancellor Lee Roberts offers a passionate defense of Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham. Our athletic director is one of the most senior, well-respected, well-regarded, admired athletic directors in the country. He has broad respect from his peers, and we don't have a more capable, more experienced, more talented senior administrator here at Carolina. And I've said this before. I don't think this audit, I don't think this consternation, I don't think people being upset at the Board of Trustees really has to do with Bubba Cunningham. Even though Bubba Cunningham got a whole lot of people upset when he made the comments about Florida State. But I'm talking about, I don't think Bubba Cunningham is, I don't think anybody truly believes that Bubba Cunningham did something unethical, criminal with the budget plans. I just think the reality is hitting at North Carolina. It's just the way it is. The money perch is getting on top of this now, and they're putting a whole lot of pressure on the Board of Trustees. That was one comment. We've got a few more here, and then we'll get to you, JD. I promise you. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Brian Murphy also reported Cunningham left the meeting as it went into closed session. As for concerns about his availability, he says he always tries to be available. David Hale also reported that Roberts strongly endorsed Bubba Cunningham's leadership and said the budget has been audited 10 times in the last 5 years. 10 times in the last 5 years. Roberts on protecting rivalries with Duke, Wake, and North Carolina State. Fans value those historic rivalries among many important considerations as we consider Carolina's future. So they're considering Carolina's future. And protecting the rivalries with Duke, Wake Forest, North Carolina State, that's going to be part of it. Those are important considerations as we consider Carolina's future. I believe we're starting to see the start of something here, ladies and gentlemen. I think today is the starting block. I think the closed session today, we don't have the particulars, but we believe there is something going on. David Hale, this was just about 15 minutes ago. This is all new reporting. All of it's new reporting. Interim Chancellor Lee Roberts. It's obviously a time of significant upheaval. And my job, and the job of our athletic director, is to make sure when the dust settles, Carolina is better off. Do you want to make sure after the dust settles or before the dust settles? That's my question. But Lee Roberts says, my job and the job of our athletic director is to make sure when the dust settles, Carolina is better off. We got one more here. Hold on. No, I guess that's about it. That is about it. JD, thank you for your patience, sir. I do appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
There's one thing that I want to bring up, and I'm going to keep this brief compared to my other phone calls.
No problem. You can talk. You have the floor, my friend.
2 talking points. Track record and propaganda. Okay? I'm very skeptical of the ACC. I'm very skeptical of the things that Jim Phillips said yesterday. The ACC has been accused of misrepresenting things often. How much can we prove they've misrepresented? Well, we have a belief that they've misrepresented the status of the contract, past and present, the status of the grant of rights, past and present, the nature of an extension. Is it a look-in? Is it an extension? Is it this? Is it that? There's a lot of misdirection with the ACC. But what happens is a lot of times a news article or a press conference will come out and the ACC will stick to their talking points, and then we treat it almost as gospel. Or we just give them the benefit of the doubt. I know reporters have to, and I'm not talking about you, I know reporters have to have access to, or want access to, the universities and conferences and so on. But so often, willingly or unwillingly, they become propaganda. You know, where it's almost like sometimes, and I'm not saying every reporter does it, but often, let's just say FSU does a filing tomorrow and it makes all these claims, and then the reporters go back and they go through the claims and they give it credence, but then the ACC, unnamed anonymous athletic directors or conference officials will make a we'll talk to them, and then the ACC becomes gospel. Okay, so I understand everybody has to take everything with a grain of salt. I would too. I'm just making a point. The ACC has been less than truthful in the past, and every statement that FSU has made, they have signed an affidavit to the court. It's almost like they are swearing in their claims. Whether they're proven right or wrong, they're willing to stand behind it. The ACC, you don't even really know what's in the documentation. You don't even know that the things that they're saying in public are even true, because they're trying to make sure that nobody sees the contracts or any other of the contract or the conference business is even made public to be able to question the validity of what they're saying. So, again, moving forward, I expect, I'm not going to get into the whole whether FSU announces or anything, because I don't have control over that. I just go by what other people are saying and whether they're reliable sources. But my point is that I'm just moving forward. I'm not going to give the ACC deference. If something is true, then it's true. But I'm not going to take their word for it, period. Because frankly, I don't believe them. I don't. Do I believe FSU is going to get out scot-free? No. Do I believe that it's just going to be an easy, we announce and we're going? No. Will they possibly announce? It's very, very, very possible this summer. Very possible. But that'll be their decision if they think that's the right move. And that's not even the topic of this of this call. It's that I see some of the reporting coming out in these articles yesterday, and it wasn't anything bad. It's just I marveled how Kliavkoff was a propagandist, but we should believe Jim Phillips. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about other things that I've read in different social media area, between media and social media and so on. And it just, I have to chuckle. Because I don't know that he is, and I had felt sorry for Jim, that he was put in a bad position. And I'm not so certain he's not just like the rest of them, and that's my opinion. Okay, everybody take what I have to say with a grain of salt too. I'm just like any individual that forms an opinion. Am I biased? Yes. Am I fair? I think I'm very fair. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I mean, I know that the conversation's changed. I saw where some FSU fans were like listening to what Jim Phillips was saying, and they're questioning whether or not it's going to handcuff FSU to these other aspects. And I just want to remind people that you really can't believe what he's saying until you actually see it materialize. He's a politician. Mm-hmm. He's not just a conference commissioner. He's a politician. And I don't know that I've ever met a politician that on the national stage that has ever told the truth straight down the line. Mm-hmm. It's in shades of gray. Anyway, that's all.
I appreciate
the show, JD. As always, sir. Thank you.
Love you, man. Call again,
all
sir.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
JD letting his he's not believing pretty much anything the ACC is saying. He's got to see it to believe it. A lot of people agree with them. A lot of Seminoles agree with them. I think he was speaking for a lot of Seminole fans. It's not like the ACC has done Florida State many favors.
Call from
Robbie Owen.
Robbie is on the line. The floor is yours, sir.
Hey, buddy. I'm a first-time caller. I usually just like to listen.
You got it.
But I don't understand reporters. Because if you listen to what Jim Phillips said yesterday, he said that money had nothing to do with success. This is 100% the reason why the ACC has fallen behind. Yeah. This is why other conferences didn't have the foresight to start doing the things they needed to do to keep up.
Yeah.
Because he said that. And so if you have that philosophy in your leadership, I never thought the ACC would die. I thought it would just kind of go to a smaller G5, but I don't know what it's going to do now, because if they truly have that philosophy, it's over there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. like Texas and Oklahoma, they called Greg Sankey, not because they didn't have a whole lot of money, because those two universities have a whole lot of money, but they anticipated the future. They anticipated that student athletes were going to start to get paid. They wanted to get to a conference. They wanted to get above a certain revenue stratification line. They anticipated the future. Big Ten's been expanding, trying to create bandwidth, trying to create more value to the conference for years and years and years. Big 12, Brett Yormark anticipated that the Big 12 needed to help themselves by going more national. The Pac-12 sat there for 20 years, and they really did not attempt to expand to the central time zone because there were some universities that just didn't want to do it. And the ACC has not anticipated the future at all. Jim Phillips keeps talking about these championships that they've won. They have won. ACC have won those championships. But it was in a different era. We're going into a new era where recruiting, where money's going to be important in recruiting. And a lot of those sports were non-revenue sports. It's still a great thing. ACC is successful in that. No question about it. But they have not anticipated the future. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. The floor is back to you, sir.
Well, I'm just kind of, I read everything that there is out there this morning about it, and I haven't seen any reporter even pick up that he said that. Yeah. And that to me was the biggest thing that he said. Is so basically his philosophy is we don't have to spend money to be successful. And I'm from South Florida, so I was around when the Marlins bought a team and bought a coach and spent a ton of money, and they won the World Series that year. So it does work. That's why the NFL has a salary cap, because it would be unfair for some of the teams that make more money because you can buy players. And now that we're starting to buy players in college football, it doesn't make sense to me that he still has that philosophy. I can't think the AC. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Florida State and Clemson use this in court, because it's delusional. It's very naive to be thinking the way that he is. And I'm shocked that, that he even said it.
Yeah. We do have some breaking news. Breaking news. If you can just hold on a second.
Sure.
Brian Murphy, News and Observer, just put a post out there. Why did the University of North Carolina Board of Trustees change their tune on talking athletics today at closed session? Because that's what they were going to do. We got the tip on it a couple of days ago. Yesterday we talked about it. One possible reason, a complaint was filed yesterday in Orange County alleging board was in violation of North Carolina's Open Meetings Law and Public Records Act. So, when the Board of Trustees insinuated, I'll just use that word, I don't even remember what day it was anymore. Was it Tuesday? Whatever that board, I think it was Tuesday, that they were going to be talking about college athletics, the athletic department and everything, closed session. We got the tip on it. We thought maybe they would go in open session and talk a little bit about it. There was a complaint filed yesterday in Orange County. I don't know who did the filing. I'm going to look at the Orange County public records, see if I can find anything on it. Allegedly, the board was in violation of North Carolina's Open Meetings Law and Public Records Act. There's only a certain few items. That's why John Pryor talked about what he talked about in open remarks. There's only a few items that they can safely, securely talk about in closed session. Campus security, lawyer, confidential stuff, lawyer-client confidential information, a few other items. But talking about athletic department revenue budget, that is something that you cannot push into closed session. You got to talk about an open session, and they did not talk about an open session. They're not talking about in closed session. They stood down. The North Carolina Board of Trustees stood down today And it looks like it was because a complaint was filed yesterday in Orange County. Holy smokes. Go ahead, Bobby. I appreciate you hanging on for me.
No, that's good. I just wanted to get that out there because I wanted people to start thinking about that. Because now, with that attitude, what Florida State's doing, what Clemson's doing, what North Carolina's probably going to do, and now maybe Miami does it, is that people need to get out. You cannot, bad leadership, very bad leadership.
Yeah.
All right, have a good day.
You got it. Appreciate it. Wow. Breaking news all over the place. Again, the Board of Trustees meeting went off. There was an opening statement by John Pryor saying that we're not going to be talking about anything. Basically, that was it. We're not going to be talking about a closed session. We weren't clear enough in our Monday or Tuesday meeting, whatever that was. I think it was Monday. Basically, they misspoke. Allegedly misspoke. They stood down today. And now I think we just found out why. The great reporting from Brian Murphy. Holy smokes. Pryor said on Monday, I have tried to get more information from athletics and have had a couple meetings with the AD, and candidly, I end up with more concern and more questions having done that. I think it's imperative for the board to hear all of this in a closed session. Full conversation on this Thursday in closed session. That is what John Pryor, the chairman of the UNC Board of Governors, chairman of the Board of Trustees, said on Monday. I'm going to repeat that. John Pryor, the chair of the Board of Trustees, on Monday said, I have tried to get more information from athletics. I've had a couple meetings with the athletic director, and candidly, I end up with more concern and more questions having done that. I think it's imperative for the board to hear all of this in closed session. Full conversation on this Thursday in closed session. He said the phrase closed session twice. And that is illegal. So they could have talked about an open session. I think they're talking about some stuff in close. I know what, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I think they're, I agree with Jamie. I think there has been a process that has been started, legal process with the Board of Governors, a process that has started. But again, John Pryor kind of put his foot in his mouth. There was a complaint filed in Orange County. And now the Board of Trustees have stood down. More drama at UNC Chapel Hill. Phone lines open 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. I'll see if there's any more reporting going on. It's absolutely wild. What has happened after the meeting has been a whole lot more important than what's happened before or during the meeting. There's also a breaking news in regards to ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers, their joint venture streaming sports service, has unveiled the new brand identity for the highly anticipated platform. It's called Venue. Venue is the name of the joint venture streaming sports service platform.
Call from
Crab cakes and football.
Crab cakes and football, the floor is yours.
It sounds like whatever the chancellors wanted to, or whoever wanted to say in closed session, they knew it was probably going to be hard to hear for the rest of the conference, and that it would probably, undo some relationships or hurt some feelings or whatever. But that filing now pushes it to where it has to be an open session, and they just axed it because they didn't want to go there.
Yep.
Because so now they have the problem of how do they hold this conversation? They have to wait to absolutely get the evidence, which is the audits, everything, lay it out, say, okay, I know we got to say things like the words withdrawal. I know we got to say the words like, SEC or Big Ten, and all this revenue sharing or this and that and the other, and all this stuff that's going to become public knowledge that we tried to do in closed session, but because of whoever filed that motion to stop it and was successful, now they have to man.
Yeah.
Sunshine, their version of a sunshine, what it sounds like. So they have no choice but to wait and say it publicly, and they're not, and so they have to put it off until the very last second now.
Yeah.
That's only, man.
And I also think that I think we're at a different time in regards to North Carolina. I think they have started some sort of process. Of course, we don't have that confirmed, but we think basically it has. I'm trying to find the quote here. Hold on a second. Of course, I can't. But UNC Interim Chancellor Lee Roberts, it's obviously a time of significant upheaval in my job and the job of our athletic directors to make sure when the dust settles, Carolina is better off than it is now than it has been. So I think they have started some sort of process. Exactly what it is, I do not know. But I think something has started today. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, there's really nothing else for me to add. I just thought it was interesting that as soon as, they wanted to go in closed session, because in closed session they can have these in-depth scenarios.
Not with athletic department budgets and the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one thing they couldn't do. They might be talking about other stuff in closed session in regards to conference affiliation. Did they hire a consulting firm? What, they do have legal counsel there, but they can't talk about the athletic department numbers, budgets in closed session. That has to be an open session.
No, I'm saying that's what they wanted to do originally.
Yep.
And then they got the pushback, and now they're like, okay, it's either we say everything out so where everybody can hear it and we ruin relationships or at least put strain on relationships, or we hold off until it's absolutely necessary. That's where I think they're at right now. So.
Yeah.
All right, sir. I'll
right,
let
man.
you go.
I
That's everything
appreciate
I
it.
need to comment on. No
Beautiful.
problem. Bye.
Thank you, Crab Cakes and Football. If you are new to the channel, or if you haven't done so, please subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and turn on your notifications because we can come on live at any time. We came on live this morning, PATC breakfast. We covered the Board of Trustees meeting at North Carolina. Basically, it was a dud, except for the very first part of it, when John Pryor, the chairman of the board, basically said, oops, We're not going to talk about it in closed session. They're not going to talk about it in open session. They didn't talk about it at all, about the situation with the athletic department. Lee Roberts, the interim chancellor, has come out and defended Bubba Cunningham. I don't think this is a Bubba Cunningham budgeting issue. I think this is an issue of where UNC athletic department is in the red, is going to continue to be in the red, and I think there's a lot of frustrations. The money purchasers don't want to be able to have to triple dip into the wallets to keep the athletic department competitive. They don't want to cut sports. They want to look for the alternative. And the alternatives is SEC, Big Ten, or reconstruct the ACC, which I think is an extreme long shot. But there is the continued pressure at North Carolina. Have they begun? Are they beginning right now in closed session to, we'll steal the phrase from Ross Dellinger, to socialize conversations with the Board of Governors to see what they can do, trying to get a financial plan ready to the Board of Governors to show them how badly off the athletic department is, how they need to make a change. They need to make sure that Carolina is better off in the future. I don't know. We've got some hints that that is happening, but we cannot confirm it. It is wild times at North Carolina. And coming from Ross Dellinger's reporting and Brett McMurphy's reporting from yesterday, the ACC is dug in. They really don't have any incentive to settle right now unless Florida State and Clemson comes in with a big number, unless they're willing to sign a big old check in the $500 million range, $600 million range. So that is where we're at right now. ACC is dug in. Florida State and Clemson is dug in. They're going to lead the ACC. It's just a matter of how much they're going to pay. And the ACC wants that number as high as possible, and there's no incentive for the ACC to settle for lower than the highest number possible. But if North Carolina gets in the game, if North Carolina gets into the fray, all bets are off. That's my opinion. I think things change substantially. Judge Cooper ruling on the ACC ESPN media rights agreement to be open and public view. If Judge Cooper ever rules on that in Florida State's favor, then I think that might push settlement as well. Those are the wild cards. North Carolina and the ACC ESPN sunshine laws in the state of Florida, Judge Cooper. Those are the two wild cards, in my opinion. Other than that, we are in trench warfare in the courts in Pickens County, Mecklenburg County, Leon County, and there is no great incentive for the ACC to settle unless something of those wild cards happen. That's how I see it. I do appreciate you all coming on in. Yes, Phil Berger, Rockingham, there's something about the rivalries that exist that I think would be damaged if the larger schools within North Carolina in different conferences. Phil Berger wants the AC to continue. But I don't think it's going to continue in the state that it is right now, because Clemson and Florida State are going to lead the conference. It just depends on how big that check is going to be that they're going to send off to the ACC. We're going to continue to cover this story and everything else in college football. You can bet on that. We're not going to back down. The North Carolina Board of Trustees stood down today, but peek around the corner will not. We're going to continue to follow everything in regards to this story and everything else in college football. I want to thank the people with the generous donations The chat room was on fire today, and the couple phone calls that we received. We're going to close down our breakfast show. We could come on live again later today with breaking news. There's a good chance we will. There's a good chance that we're going to go on live again today. This morning was just about covering the Board of Trustees meeting. I think we did about as much as we possibly could have done. We've also went over the Brett McMurphy and Ross Dellinger reporting of late last night. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up, brace for impact. We could come on live again today. Who knows? Let's see where it goes. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.